My name is Barry Randall. I'm the Managing Director of the Grey Bruce Sustainability Network, and I'm glad to welcome you on behalf of our board and all of Grey Bruce to the final episode of this Sustainable Living series that we've been hosting over the last few months, and we've had great participation to the various themes. Vitold Kruetzer will help with that. Just so everybody knows, this session is being recorded. We're lucky tonight to have Scott Taylor, Senior Planner from Grey County, and Hiba Hussein joining us as guest speakers. And it's going to be a little bit different tonight. We're asking this core group to help us plan the future. And once again, thanks all of you for joining. And I'll turn things over to Lee Gregg, the current chair of Grey Bruce Sustainability Network. But over to Lee for poll number 1.
Hi, thanks for joining us. Well, thanks a lot for coming. We'll get interrupted at any time here with little kids, but that's the way life goes. But yeah, maybe we'll try real quick to test out our polling. This tonight's all about our wrap up, our season finale. And we had 8 incredible episodes. Thanks. They've just been packaged up as a gift by Vitold and by Kevin, who's produced them, and Barry, who's produced them. We want to know, just as a test here, we'll launch this poll. Which episode was your favorite? There we go. We'll share the results of that. Looks like if you can all see on your screen, you might be able to see that our most popular episodes seem to be renewable energy tours. And then it looks like we've got a split tie for second place, food and ag and nature-based solutions. Those were great episodes. And then local food systems as well as an honorary mention. These are incredible and relevant themes to Grey Bruce. So thank you for envisioning all this and producing it. And I'll save these and over to you, Vitold.
Thank you very much, Lee. It just put a smile on my face because the top 3 are the ones that I chose. But, you know, way back last year, we had our first event on November the 3rd. And that was the start. And John Anderson did a wonderful job of setting the tone. And we didn't know how it was going to work out at that time, but we knew that we wanted to promote basically the 5 major themes that we thought people could embrace as 5 possible areas where people could make personal decisions on their lives or had opportunities to do something. And at the same time, witness individuals in the area who are exceptional in their own ways and means that can offer those other residents in the area with wonderful information and expertise, service, and products. So we did this way back, as I said, started November the 3rd, and then every 2 weeks except for around Christmas time. So the first thing I'd like to say is that none of this could have happened unless all the individuals who participated agreed to share their knowledge and information. So this is an evening for me of gratitude, as well as to see what we're going to do in the future. Nothing can happen without the efforts and work of other people, of volunteers, and Grey Bruce is well known for their volunteers. And I am totally grateful for all the people who participated. I mean, a lot of the people, even in our very first, in our second session, I should say, we actually visited 2 off-grid homes, the homes of David and Jill Smith Brody, plus the Straw Bale home of Lynn Stoltzfus and Christine Ferrand. They allowed Kevin and I to come into their home and shared wonderful information as to what their purposes were and how they've been able to live since they've been living off the grid. Now, everyone can't live off the grid, so we also were lucky enough to have a group of individuals in their own right who are expertise from an energy auditor, a registered energy auditor in the form of Dan Blankensop, He gave us wonderful information as what we can all do as far as determining how home energy efficient our homes are. Then we had Chris Vanderhout, I believe a part owner in a main cog in the Evolve building group. And I understand a few people have approached him due to his wonderful information. And then we had from a Grassroots Solar, Santo Cortorone and Carl Bell to talk about various renewable energy products. That was the first theme. The second theme, we moved on to food and agriculture. And our first evening, or part of that, was talking to 4 exceptional farmers that in their own way were very unique. We had the CSA, the Saugeen CSA of Corey Eichmann. We had the CSA and Side Road Farm. We had Patrick and Amy Kitchen. We had the first of 2 interviews that we did with Thorsten Arnold from the Persephone Market Garden. And finally, from Glen Colton Farm, we learned about the culture in agriculture from Michael Schmidt. The second half of that event, we decided to look at not just the farmers, but other ways that individuals could obtain local food. That was the interest. How and where can we look at obtaining local food? And so we started by looking to one of our board members, Simona Fabragova, to talk about her wonderful times at the Meaford Community Garden and her network. It was a wonderful time, and it explored how something that is budding is about to happen in Grey Bruce as far as community gardens is concerned. Then we went to Emma Bell and David Walton from the Eat Local Grey Bruce Cooperative, so people could find out one of the alternatives to going to the supermarket and obtaining local food. And to balance things off, we got a co-manager from the Owen Sound Farmers Market. We interviewed Richard Thomas to give us an idea. Again, another local base for food. And to round things off, we went to the United Way to look for answers and insights into food security in Grey Bruce. And we spoke actually to the food security coordinator, Paul Wegenar, who gave us some extremely interesting facts and figures regarding the state of food security in Grey Bruce. Our next theme that we looked at was alternative transportation options. So what we decided to do was we first looked at, and we were very fortunate to have Joachim Ostertag give us a wonderful idea of the whole concept and history of bicycling, and especially his history. We also decided on giving people a choice for vehicles, and we looked for an electric vehicle supplier, and Hyundai came to our rescue, and we had David Hamill and Nick Hahn from Hyundai to talk to us about the past, the present, and the future of alternative vehicles, whether it was in hybrids, electric, or hydrogen, or in the future of hydrogen. And then finally, we had Stephanie Stewart, the manager for community transportation from Grey County, that gave us an idea of some of the public options. Zero waste communities and management. So we were fortunate to have a live performance or presentation by Jim Ellis from the township of Southgate, who gave us a presentation and a PowerPoint idea of how Southgate is handling waste management. We were very fortunate to have Laura Wood from the Owen Sound Waste Watchers, who gave us wonderful information from a personal point of view on the whole concept and how we look upon waste and what is happening as far as the volunteer part of the Owen Sound Waste Watchers. We rounded off with that evening with 2 speakers, Bruce Davidson, who spoke about a variety of waste management opportunities in the area and some of his history, and also our managing director for the Grey Bruce Sustainability Network, Barry Randall, also gave an idea and a history of his involvement and how the Grey Bruce Sustainability Network is involved as far as waste management options are concerned. And then we came to our fifth theme, which was our last event prior to this one. I showed my preference because I'm very much involved with nature-based solutions, and we had 4 incredible speakers. We heard from Thorsten Arnold again regarding the role of the soil, the health of the soil, and how it related to the health of the human being and so forth. Keith Reed from Alice talked to us about their program for alternative land use services that's offered to farmers in the area. And he gave us a wonderful opportunity to see what's available for farmers. Mike Fry from the Grey Sauble Conservation Authority also talked about what the Conservation Authority, how it can help us, individuals, as well as farmers, as far as what can be done and what their criteria is for whether it's tree planting or looking at whatever environmental issues that residents would have and do have. And then we finally finished off with just a quick idea of what the Bruce Grey Woodlands Association does in our area. And then we did that again through Chris Vanderhout. The big thing about all these is the fact that many of these interviews were done well ahead of time, but they were all pertinent to and gave people invaluable information as to the fact that there are many people doing a great deal on the individual side. The purpose of this Sustainable Living series was to look at and carefully approach what individuals can do and are doing and what services and products are being offered in the Grey Bruce area. The goal was to show that not only what can be done, but to show that there are so many already doing it. So we're not alone, and that the opportunities are ever expanding day by day because the need is there. So basically, my understanding and my hope was that people would find this information a valuable addition to their resources. And if they missed any of the talks, it is my understanding that all of the sessions are available on the Grey Bruce Sustainability Network YouTube channel, and they can be viewed at any time that you wish. So if for any reason any of you have missed any 1 or 2 or 3 and are interested to see what transpired, I encourage you to visit the Grey Bruce Sustainability Network site and see what transpired. The wealth of information in total there was enormous, but then I'm not objective when I say that. So I wanted again to say thank you to all those who participated. I wanted to thank all those who showed up as participants during this time of COVID-19. You know, sometimes climate action is sort of left behind and not put on the burner. Because there's other issues, but it's all the same issue. It's our health of the planet, health of ourselves, our families, and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish there. I'm hoping that Lee is be able to take a break from taking care of his children, because I understand that he has another poll question and he's going to describe a what to do wheel. Do we have Lee around?
Thanks, Vitold. Yeah, rest assured, everyone is being looked after by a parental figure. So yeah, I don't know about you, but I was hanging off every word of a couple of the episodes and a couple of the speakers throughout this series. Most especially, memorably, the nature-based solutions one when I was learning about Alice. So what a great partner they are. We're looking up, and all that content is available on our YouTube channel. But this is where we shift in the evening from the topics to action. And I'm gonna share a framework that was shared with me back at the Public Health Unit Healthy Communities Conference by Marilyn Struthers and I think it was Odette Barnecki, Ann Schneider, Bob Gray, and Joachim. It's been best described to me as a hop on, hop off bus tour. The 7 sections of where individually engaged in climate action, areas that we can we either are contributing or can. We have tune in to your nature. We have learn about your climates, educating yourselves. This is all on the self side. Choosing to live green in your own way. Talking with your friends and family and community. Organizing. This is getting more into the community and organizing and advocating for local change. And then participating in political process. This is getting more and more public and going public with a social action. So I won't make you memorize them all, but I found it's a segue into what we're going to be uncovering tonight. And I've been, again, Marilyn and the crew from Carbon Conversations, they really want to find out as much data from you guys as possible, from everybody in climate action, and whether or not you're just dipping your toe in climate action or if you're doing multiple things. And I think most people are in this call are doing multiple things. And what we're asking is if you could tell us where on the wheel do you feel most comfortable. So what are you doing right now? A lot of us are choosing to live green in our own way. Followed very closely by second place is on the wheel is tuning into nature. An honorable mention there is learning. So it looks like we're all still, we're very much on the self, if this wheel is any indication. Thank you. We've saved those results, and we'll go back to Vitold.
Thank you, Lee. And now I have a great pleasure to do the following, is that I've had the wonderful experience of working with someone who works for Grey County. And when I first met both Scott Taylor and Hiba Hussein, I first saw them at the Harmony Center in the summer, I think, of 2019. And we had a full house, and they were very instrumental in giving a lot of good information. And they seemed very dedicated to listening to people. And so Hiba, who has been working for Grey County up to last Friday, was the face of not a simple undertaking. And by that I mean the Grey County Climate Action Plan. We're all looking forward to all the hard work that she and the planning department and all the people who were involved in it. And so it was very generous of both Scott and Hiba to come to our final event to give us an idea what to expect from Grey County, what has been done, and maybe to answer a few questions afterwards. The public engagement for this climate action plan that I know, it was very appropriate. And I thank the planning department, especially Scott and Hiba, for allowing so many people to take have a role in coming up with the plan. But this is the first stage of the plan. So I know that Hiba will be speaking as a private citizen tonight. And in lieu of this, I just wanted to say something special to her. I wanted to thank her on behalf of Grey Bruce Sustainability Network, and myself in particular, for all her dedication and her work that she has put through for the climate action plan, and in the way that she handled and spoke to people in sharing information and so forth. I hope that that's okay with you, Scott, because I think that you share similar ideas. So again, thank you, Hiba. I think I want it to be put on record that many, many people are very thankful of the efforts you put in, and wish you the best in your future endeavors. I'd like to present Scott Taylor, the senior planner for the Grey County, and Hiba Hussein, private citizen but invaluable worker for the Grey County in the past.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for the kind words. I really appreciate that. And I just want to thank everyone on this call. I think I know everyone, or I've met everyone on the call. So you guys have been really valuable in helping me learn about the climate change and the work that all of you are doing in the community in regards to climate change. So I've learned as much from you guys as I've kind of tried to give back to the community. So I think the way Scott and I maybe talked about this is that I'll maybe talk about some of the work that I did with the plan, and then Scott can talk about the future of the plan. It's going to be hard. It's been a while since I worked for the county, so I'm not sure I can remember everything, but I'm going to try to recap as much as what I kind of started this plan off on, and then hopefully Scott can take it from there. But so this plan started kind of briefly in late 2018 with some background research, and I was tasked with the goal of kind of learning about what everyone in what our neighbors and kind of what municipalities and counties in rural Ontario had been doing for climate change. And kind of there's been some work done, but there wasn't a lot for us to kind of help us guide the process. So we were able to pull on some plans that Kawartha Lakes and Huron County had put together for their work for climate change. But the background research really helped guide us in developing the RFP process. We took a lot of what those municipalities had done. We kind of looked internally to our council, kind of seen what they had wanted us to do with this plan. And we developed an RFP, put it out to the public, and then we got bids, and we got ICLEI Canada, who is quite a leader in climate change globally, but also Canadian, within Canada as well. They've done a lot of work in BC. They've done a lot of the climate action plans within Ontario, especially within rural Ontario. So we thought they would be a great champion for the work that we wanted to do here, and they'd be a great asset, and their knowledge would be very valuable. So we decided to work with them, and our plan started off, our initial work started off in 2019. And part of our work with ICLEI was following through the FCM framework, the PCP framework. So we had joined the PCP as part of our work on climate change. And so we were working through that framework. So the first couple months of our work with ICLEI, we did an emissions baseline inventory. So we collected data from our municipalities, from utility companies, and we kind of tried to create a baseline of what our emissions were within the community, but also at the corporate level. It was made very clear to us from the very beginning that we really wanted to focus on the corporate level, just because we wanted to make sure as a county we were leaders on climate change. So we were kind of looking at how we can make our own processes more emissions friendly. And so that was a huge part of it, is to both look at the corporate sector and the community sector. So we picked 2018 as a baseline year for our emissions inventory because it was a year that we had the most complete amount of data. And then sorry, I'm going to have a mix up with my dates because it's been so long, but in the summer of 2020, we decided to, we felt ready enough to start doing some of our public consultation. So start going out and reaching out to the communities. But at the same time, it was difficult because it was COVID. So we couldn't really go out and talk to a lot of people in person. So we had to adapt the way we engaged with our community. So we did surveys. We put out an agricultural survey. We put out a general survey. We did an online workshops. We tried to get feedback through multiple ways. We held interviews with the key stakeholders. So within the ag community, within the tourism community, within the small business community. And we really wanted to get as much feedback on how the community wanted the plan to look like, just so that we knew we were addressing all of the key areas that needed to be addressed in terms of climate change. Based on that initial feedback, we developed 7 themes in the in the community section that we were going to focus on, and then 4 themes in the corporate section that we were going to focus on. And from there, we started developing strategies that really really looked at some of the key areas that the community wanted to focus on. And these strategies are meant to be broad focus areas. So, for example, look at developing a green standards bylaw. So they're meant to be broad areas of focus, and then we would work with our partners within the community and within the municipal sector to then developing detailed programming that would help us implement that strategy. So over the last 5 months, since late 2020 and early 2021, we've been presenting those strategies and kind of developed a draft plan. Our hope before we left was that we would be able to bring that draft plan to the community in the spring of 2021. That draft plan encompasses all of the data that we had gathered over the last year. It encompasses all the strategies we've developed, and it also encompasses all the targets that we've developed for the future in terms of where we want to be by 2030 and 2050. So I'm going to maybe turn it over to Scott so he can talk about a bit of the draft.
Sure. Thanks, Hiba, and thanks very much to Vitold and the group here tonight to give us a chance to chat with you and learn from you. And I think Vitold might have seen my notes in advance of this, because I was going to say a lot of the same things. Thanking Hiba for all her excellent work on this project, her dedication. As this group well knows, engagement isn't tough or isn't easy in the best of times, let alone during a global pandemic. So I'm so thankful for all the efforts she put in, and she and groups like yours have really taught me a lot, and I'm still definitely learning, but it's fantastic. And so one of the things that Hiba mentioned is that we do have this diverse range of strategies, and some of them are very much getting our own house in order, our own Grey County corporate house, and there's things that we can do internally that will certainly make a big difference. But there's lots that we're going to need community partners on. And so seeing groups like yours that are already in the community, already engaged, already operating, I know I've met a number of you before, and people like Barry Randall, who I've known on and off for years, are just so passionate and leaders in the community about this. And that's where we really think as a county, we can leverage partnerships. Some of those partnerships will be with community groups like yours. Some of them will be working with perhaps some of the speakers that you mentioned from your earlier sessions. I heard Keith Reed's name come up from Alice. Keith is fantastic, and the work that they do will be so important to implementing the plan in the agricultural sector. Some of our other key partners, as Hiba mentioned, will be our 9 member municipalities. And one of the things that's in this regard causing perhaps a slight pause to releasing the plan publicly is we want a little bit of time just to talk to the municipalities and try to figure out a little bit how we can all collaborate better on this. I know the city of Owen Sound, for example, right now is going through their official plan review, and I think the message has been loud and clear from the community. We really need a climate action. We really need focus on this. And so I think as a county government, we really want to understand how we can, for lack of a better word, all be singing from the same hymn book at the county and municipal level to really make a bigger impact in that regard. So I think there was a question already in the chat about when we're going to see the draft. I will say I have a draft sitting on my digital desk right now. Don't worry, I didn't print a paper copy. And I have to review that, and as do some others in the county. And then we hope to talk about next steps internally in terms of ultimately releasing it to our member municipalities, sharing it with council, and then most importantly, going out for another round of consultation with different sectors and member of the public. So I wish I had an announcement here today to say, hey, we're gonna have a draft by X date. But I will say we're continuing to work hard on it and trying not to let Hiba down in this regard in terms of all the work that she started for us. And The one other thing, which isn't directly related to the Climate Change Action Plan, but I did want to put in a plug for us. Another process the county has just initiated in this regard is we're actually reviewing our forest management bylaw as we speak, and there's actually the first open house tomorrow night. For those of you that might not be familiar, this is the bylaw that's countywide that looks at tree cutting in forests across the county. So if someone wants to come in and manage their bush and sustainably take out a few trees for harvest, then they can apply for a simple permit versus if someone comes in and wants to clear cut 5 acres, then that's quite a different process. We've had this bylaw in place right now since 2006, and we're really looking for feedback on it. What's working, what isn't working, where we need to look at some changes going forward, and again, in partnership with our municipalities. So there is a section on the county website, which I would encourage you to look at if you have an interest in this sort of thing, and hopefully provide some feedback. Although there's a meeting tomorrow night, this is just the beginning of it. This is just the first. We don't have a draft bylaw yet or anything else to consider, so we're really looking for feedback. And finally, I just like to reinforce the notion that you know, the breadth of what the county's proposing at this stage, and I say proposing because our council hasn't adopted anything yet, is quite astounding, and it's going to be a ton of work, and we're going to rely so heavily on education and working with partners in the community. And I think the work that we've seen already done in that regard in terms of building those partnerships is fantastic, and we hope to continue that. And you know, our plan might not make everyone happy the first go round, but we hope that it can be a living document and evolve over time, and work to meet the needs sort of the community and our own corporate measures in that regard. So I'll stop talking now, and certainly if there's time on the agenda, Hiba and I would be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Scott, and welcome both of you. I have a couple of questions. I think it was my question. I was wondering if you can share with us what would be Grey County Climate Action Plan priority.
We can't narrow it down to one priority, and as Hiba said, I believe there was 7 themes and approximately 75 different strategies. And we realize that we can't do all of them immediately. There will be some that take longer term, and some that might fit more into the sort of quick win category in that regard. You know, although we don't have a publicly released document that we could say, here's all the strategies, we do have a section on our county website where, you know, if you have an interest, you can go in and watch the videos from when this was presented to the Climate Change Task Force and get a sense of what the strategies are. And so as part of that final consultation, I think we'll be looking for feedback from groups like yours, members of the public, the agricultural sector, tourism, business sector, to tell us what the priorities should be. You know, we'll have the strategies, but help rank where we should be spending some of those initial efforts, and where we might need to do some further work and further learning before we can move on with some of those others. I don't know, Hiba, if you have anything further there.
Yeah, no, I agree with what Scott said. I think, you know, some of it is things that we have to look on to see what the county's already currently doing. So there's a lot of strategies in place that, you know, the county can implement. Some of it is a lot easier, and some of it requires a little bit more investment, long-term financial investment and kind of partnership. So it really depends on kind of what are some of the stuff that we can do quickly and can be quick wins, and then looking long-term. So kind of categorizing our strategies into those kind of sections would definitely be something that I think they would consider.
Mm-hmm. The next question, I'm mindful of the time, is Scott, you were talking about the Agriculture Committee. Is it still consultation in place at this point?
The agricultural community? Is that what you said? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're still eager to engage with stakeholders in the agricultural sector. The one thing that has changed since sort of Hiba first started this plan is we now have an agricultural advisory committee at the county level too, which is made up of diverse representation from the agricultural network, from the agricultural community. So there's representatives from Eat Local Grey Bruce. There's representatives from Fish Farm. There's another from the National Farmers Union. So we're working to get feedback from groups like that as well. So although we have our climate change task force, I think once we have a draft plan, we'd be looking to engage that advisory committee, but also engage the broader agricultural community in that regard as well.
Perfect, thank you. Next question. You mentioned that Owen Sound City got a lot of challenges from the community regarding a missing climate action plan. From a county perspective, what do you need to see in the OP in order for it to be signed off by the county?
Well, that's a tough one. That's a great question. I was actually talking with Owen Sound City staff about their plan today and next steps and everything else. And so I know they are taking that community input very seriously and looking at what they can do in that regard. One of the things we talked about, and I hope they don't mind that I'm telling stories out of class here, is a bit of an education piece, both by the county and the city in this regard, in terms of what level of policy is appropriate at an official plan level and what we can reasonably look to implement at the city official plan level versus what might have to come through other avenues. And the one thing we wanted to get across and work with the community on is to note that the official plan isn't the only avenue that Owen Sound and the county are taking right now to affect change in this regard. Owen Sound's been working on a climate adaptation plan, and of course the county is working on our own climate change action plan. So what we want to try to do is work together to see, what does need to go into that official plan, what we need to look at in terms of development policies and standards going forward, and then what maybe isn't appropriate for that plan, and for the categories that aren't appropriate, where we can fit some of those strategies. So, do those fit in an adaptation plan? Do they fit in a climate change action plan? Do they fit in internal policies for some of our own internal county departments or Owen Sound staff departments in that regard? So it's as much as it is taking that feedback and understanding it and making some changes to the plan, it's also working with the community to try to figure out where all that belongs and how that all happens in that regard. I realize that was kind of a squarely on the fence answer, but that's the best I have at this stage.
I want to encourage Scott and Hiba to stay on, and there's probably going to be a couple of questions still pop up, and feel free to join the chat. And thank you. It's actually so invigorating to see action happen. I know, like, with all due respect to the organizations that have been discussing and trying to grow environmentalism and climate action for the past 10, 20, 30 years, the last 2 years have been incredible in the public sector, the private sector, the grassroots sector, and everything. So thank you, Hiba, for the work you've done. And please stick around for the breakout room. And thank you, Scott, for carrying the flag. It's just so great to see progress. It's just like I'm over the moon, because my whole thing is to stay motivated in the face of bad news on the news about climate change and feedback loops, melting permafrost, climate refuge, you name it. You hear bad news, and it's just so great to hear some progress. Moving along, we have one organization that can play a pivotal role moving forward. Is an organization I joined 2 years ago. It's 10 years old, but it's GBSusNet, Grey Bruce Sustainability Network. Tonight's a bit of a getting to know you for us, for some people. But we are an organization that's a nonprofit. Barry has said this many times before, but I'll try and just give give some perspective to what this organization, what potential this organization can do for grassroots groups, for the county, for all these stakeholders. Well, essentially, we have great directors, a board of directors from a wide geographical catchment area, north, south, east, and west in Grey and Bruce. We have Simona in Meaford. We have Vitold down in Chatsworth, Beth Ann Curry outside of Owen Sound. Myself, I'm from the Wyerton area. Susie Schmidt up in Lions Head. Nick Schwass in Tara. We have Joanne Harbison's a director. She's in Saugeen Shores. Crystal Murphy down in Kincardine. And Lisa Holland, so south of Walkerton. So we are literally all over the map trying to bring together not only climate action in Grey and Bruce, but also programming and you name it. You want to know more, we got a website. But tonight we want to spend a bit of time just taking stock of where we are in this process, and we want to link together your energy, the 20 people here, and the potential of GBSusNet moving forward. It's the end of our video series, but it's the beginning of the next incarnation of how we can work together. And we have a lot going on. We got we're project oriented. We got a bank account. We got project sponsor capabilities. So with that introduction, I'm gonna poll you briefly on where you see GBSusNet's role coming up, and then we're going to discuss it a little bit more. But here's an idea in front of you. You've got some options I'd like you to pick out 2 areas where you think GBSusNet should focus its efforts in the immediate future. So on the wings of this documentary series, this is a group that can be in the grassroots sector, just organizing climate action, the grassroots in-person workshops, COVID permitting, in the grassroots groups with another docu-series, just like the one we just concluded. Should we be in the public sector, networking with nonprofits and citizen groups? Should we be in the public sector working with government? Should we be in the public sector working with schools on issues of sustainability? Or if you have other ideas, stick it in the chat at any point tonight. This is for the remainder of the night. This will be the theme. So there's where this group feels that we're best suited as a nonprofit, networking with the other citizen groups in the public sphere. And then also we got a lot of people who split second place between another docu-series. Vitold, you're on the spot for that, and working with schools. But your questions for the breakout room with your 5 friends. Where do you see yourself dedicating your energy in the climate action movement locally? So what issues? And as a nonprofit, where should GBSusNet be dedicating its energy in future years? So what's our role?
So on the question number 1, where do you see yourself dedicating your energy in the climate action movement in Grey Bruce, and what issues? I think what the general theme was people are very interested in our group about continuing with market gardens. There was an aspiration to say that trying to live simply would maybe help with the climate action as well, not getting too much of a consuming type of lifestyle. I think there's interest from well, at least with one myself, in continuing to document what things we can do and provide information to people. So that's what I see myself doing. But and then there was the discussion of liaison with municipalities and continuing with that effort to try and get common ground between these efforts and support from our municipalities to buy in. There was interest with connecting all of the community gardens in the area. That would be a good initiative to try and unify that as a way of life locally. And then there were some people interested in committee work, continuing with that in other areas. It was mentioned that there was a sustainability group from West Grey as well that needs to be revived and got on board with.
And did how anyone respond to the second question as far as?
Yeah, so as a nonprofit, where should Grey Bruce Sustainability Network dedicate its energy going forward? I think we need from our group is the organization needs to continue to advocate to the government for these actions. We definitely have a role to play in education and public awareness, and that can be something that can be developed further. The interest in the gardens and so forth is a very popular thing, and I believe if there's more effort from this group supporting that, I think that will find a lot of interest from the general public. Also, the idea of that the Grey Bruce Sustainability Network should continue to develop as a resource in this whole effort, and maybe we can do a bit more to develop more of the social media, to develop the website more intensely, and to just get that message out there. And if people have questions about what they can do or how they can become involved, or to use this organization as a resource to help them with those inquiries.
Thank you, Kevin. And so it sounds like you had a good discussion. Can I now go to the facilitator for the group number 2?
Okay, thanks, Vitold. There was a lot of discussion about so much to learn. So the idea of really raising our own knowledge base as far as issues related to climate change and the local communities and who's doing what. So learning more, keeping an open mind, and finding the right opportunity that each person is going to focus on. So there's so many issues out there that it's easy to be a little bit into everything, but really not getting much done. So I think the idea was to try to focus on something, align yourself with other people who are focused on the same thing, and get going. Certainly the wetland issue and the protection of our watersheds was put on the table, and the idea of land restoration and agricultural impact. Those were personal topics for people that they'll be pursuing, and raising awareness with respect to the role that both natural areas, agriculture, and urban areas have on climate resilience and climate change, and putting your feet on the ground in terms of making change. Other people said learning more about myself and just my own role in this movement, and relying and identifying experts in the community who can help us come together and also share best practices and share resources. So who are those experts? Let's bring them to the table. And I don't mean capital E expert, but just people like Vitold and others who have been in the community and know all these things. People wanted to bring more of those people to the table. So on GBSusNet, we were a little bit short on time on this one, unfortunately, but there was a focus put on really sharing what one person can do. So not what everybody needs to do, but just what are individuals able to do. And of course, there's everything from backyard composting to walking and driving less and buying electric cars. So some of the themes that we've covered already. Education was raised as something that GBSusNet should focus on. And finally, I think the strongest message was really put government's feet to the fire. And also the idea, if you say you're going to be a steward of the land, do it. Don't just say it. So I think, don't think we're pointing any fingers here, but the idea was that it could be very much the role of GBSusNet to raise the profile of issues and to strategically identify when people are saying they're doing one thing, but not doing it or doing another. So I think we have a great role to play, and that would be group number 2.
Thank you. And now we'll go to group number 3, and that was where I was. I was surrounded by 4 individuals that I would consider to be very knowledgeable, active, and pillars of what they wanted to do to help the community become more educated and aware of climate action. So on a personal basis, we got a whole interaction of doing things personally at their home in any way that way, shape, or form they can, as far as climate action, as far as food waste, getting people to not only themselves, but people around them, neighbors, to get involved with, to be aware of the amount of waste we have, not only in food, but in plastic. Also was mentioned that to get heavily involved with our own individual climate action groups in our own particular areas. Local gardens was mentioned, and basically to also be involved with the decision makers in our municipalities. I think that was mentioned by at least 2 of the people. There was also, I found very interesting that the people in our group were promoting what they wanted to do to re-educate, to get more people involved, to get the couch potato people off their couches, but also saw a role for Grey Bruce sustainability in that by increasing the role of being not an educator, but giving out more information. So the idea of more documentary series that can reach out to more people that are not already in the choir, but that haven't come on board, so to speak. It was mentioned also that the role of Grey Bruce Sustainability Network would be to collaborate extensively with the other climate action groups as well. And it was also mentioned that it was essential that no matter what we do is to maintain a role for education, not only of ourselves, but for the whole area, and to basically explore any ways of reaching the majority of people who are not active or who are not aware, or for one reason are not jumping on board. So it was also mentioned about getting together with other groups to have special campaigns or special poster programs, whether it be on food waste, energy efficiency, or whatever. But was emphasized that not only individually do we take an active role in our personal lives, but to get actively involved in the people who make decisions in our municipalities, and that Grey Bruce Sustainability Network be actively involved in both those. So I tried to sum that up. So I think that did it for number 3. And to keep us in line with the time, I thank everyone for participating in the breakout rooms. It was nice to have some sharing, and so that I wouldn't have to do any talking. So I would like now to pass this back to my friend Barry. And you want to do a wrap up, Barry?
Yeah, I do. And I wish that we were in a position where I could simply say, okay, we're done with this meeting. Let's go down the road and have a Pepsi or a ginger ale and just really let's talk about this, because that, I believe, is a big part for me anyway of building connections with people. And after a dozen years working with this group and many years working with the counties and Scott and local community groups, it's great. Zoom works, in the absence of other things, but the Grey Bruce community in person, the lands that and the waters that we inhabit here are so unique and so special that when you're out on the land and you're together with other people, appreciating them together, which we've done for many of our meetings and gatherings, is out there in these spaces. I really look forward to getting back to that, and I know we're moving closer, but we can't be in a hurry, or we will pay the price. So I'm just going to, for me personally, summarize again, thanking Vitold and everybody else that's been involved, including our sponsors, and who really this event and this series evolved over time. And I think we're going to take the input that everybody's provided, and there's no question in my mind that in the absence of a physical gathering, but even maybe when we can get back together, personally, there's many people that don't want to drive from Tobermory down to Owen Sound or to Kincardine. So a combination of in-person gatherings and Zoom events, and there's facilities like the Harmony Center that are setting up virtual programming spaces and things like that. So I look forward to further gatherings, and I'm going to put on the table that we've agreed, the sort of the core group has agreed to meet again on April 6th at 7 p.m. So we're continuing with I believe that's a Tuesday, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so alternating Tuesdays. Lee, feel free to jump in and join me on this one.
Well, I've got something saved up for the very end. It's a special award.
Okay. So please join us if you're at all interested in continuing this discussion about what's next. I think we'll probably have at least one more meeting before we really agree on format and how this is going to look and where we get funding to help continue to be a social enterprise, because employment, especially of young people, is a really important part of our mandate. So I'm hoping that we will, and I know we will, move forward. But for me personally, I'm shifting my role around a little bit, and I look forward to participating as a participant. And I thank everybody that's been involved with this to this point. And please show up on April 6th. I guess, Lee, is there a registration for that, or how are we doing that?
Not registration just yet. No, but save the date for us, please.
Save the date, and we'll be in touch.
Now, Barry, if you don't mind putting your view on gallery view, I wanted you to be able to see everybody at once. This is one of Barry's final meetings as a board director, and I wanted to make a special thank you to Barry. I left him out of the list earlier on purpose because I wanted to devote a couple of minutes at the end, just with to honor his incredible work with GBSusNet over the past since the beginning. And he is not leaving us, so to speak. He's becoming one of our project managers, and he's going to be working on projects for the foreseeable future to keep it going and to keep action happening. But we're going to miss him on the board of directors, and I want everyone to just join me in giving the thumbs up to Barry for all his hard work for the past 12 years on the board. A lot of it has been volunteer. In fact, probably way more than anyone knows has been volunteer. Thank you, Barry.
Thanks, Barry.
Thanks, Lee, and thanks, everybody. See you down the road.
Yeah, and we'll be in touch with you about April 6th, but also we'll have an AGM where maybe we can all meet in person and pat you on the back. Okay.
And share a beer.
Thanks a lot, everyone. It's been really helpful and really great to see you tonight. And thank you to our speakers.